So, what we do in life echoes an eternity. How many of you in here have been to a funeral? Yeah, I'd say most everybody. How many of you that have been to a funeral have gone out and watched them load the body in the hearse? So if you have, how many of you saw a U-Haul behind the hearse? How many in this room have had the privilege and the honor of delivering a eulogy? Chris, how did you prepare for that eulogy?
I just looked at my mother's life. I sought out what she stood for, what she meant to everybody,
What she meant to everybody. Who else? Laura?
I thought of what my father would want he said about him. So that's kind of me. What, like, if he could get a few last words in, which was, he's my dad. So a few last words, what would you want those to be?
What would you want those last words to be? What would he want those last words to be? Chris?
That's good.
Oh, Chief, sorry.
I stayed for my father. Unfortunately, my mother passed away of COVID, but I gave the military his there for this guy. And he used to read my APMs here. And got as much history on him as I could, and then brought forth his characteristics, which made me a better person.
Made you a better person. Let me ask the three of you, did any of you in your preparation go through their closet, go look in the garage, check what was in their bank account? Yes, no? No. Why?
What's his back close? I mean, if you're close enough to get to his personal possessions.
It had nothing to do with it.
Had nothing to do with it. In very simple terms, in only a few words, what am I talking about?
Legacy.
Legacy. And what is a legacy?
These people tell
The lasting impact.
It's what you leave behind, right? We're all going to be a memory someday. What is that memory? Is this part of it?
Yeah.
Is this part of your legacy? Was today worth it?
Yes.
Is what you do in HFPD worth it? Rob is very fond of reminding us all the time that we don't get anything extra for doing this. Right? You don't get any extra money. I will tell you right now, the days are much longer. So what is it? What brought you here? I heard a lot of great things when we talked about the tables and somebody got up and talked about them. They talked about inspiration, talked about giving, talked about forgiveness, all of those things. But what is it about this? What brought you here? Well, what I'd like to do to close is let's pop the hood, let's pull the dipstick, and let's look at us as a group in HFPD and find out why you think this is part of your legacy and what brought you here. Before I do that, I've got to thank Rob. yesterday, literally, I was underneath my extra in the hangar on a creeper trying to clean off the smoke oil off the bottom of my airplane, and so my text goes off. And I see, oh, it's Rob. I better finish up here and go see what he wants. So I did. I went and looked at my phone, and I see this, Skip, would you be willing to do the close tomorrow? And I thought, holy cow, absolutely. And then the emotional roller coaster hit, and I said, oh my God, I've been giving this to a room full of fledgling LCPs, fledgling instructors, and now I've got to stand in front of this accomplished group and deliver.
Stay ready, baby.
And then I thought, what an absolute privilege and honor it would be to share my story with you, to give you an idea of why I'm here. So I've got to thank Rob. I realized before I said, sure, I would be honored. I thought a lot about it, but I knew you wouldn't have asked if you didn't think I had something to offer. Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
So, what brought you here? How many of you got asked by a friend or a colleague to come to HFPD? Okay, several hands. Okay. How many of you came because you didn't know? You thought it was a new opportunity? Yeah, a lot of those. How many of you came because something told you to do this? Yeah. See, I'm a faithful person, and I believe that we are sent messages every second of every minute, of every hour, of every day, of every week, of every month, of every year. But our problem is we allow life to get so noisy and so distracting that we do not hear the messages or recognize them. Is anybody in here, other than half of you that have heard me say this, have any of you heard the term taps on the shoulder? Yeah, what's that mean, Chris?
Somebody trying to get your attention.
Yeah, somebody trying to get your attention. Well, like I said, I think they're happening all the time. And it doesn't have to be something that's extraordinary, right? It can be something small. You could be standing in line in Starbucks and in walks the family with a handicapped child. Just last April, Heidi and I went to the opening day of the Rockies. And before the game, we're crossing 21st and Blake to go have a beer. And coming across the crosswalk at us is this extremely obese woman in a double wide wheelchair. And it was almost like she was hovering in space because I couldn't see how she was moving. And then all of a sudden you see this little noggin behind her, this little gal pushing her across the street. And when she passed us, she had a prosthetic leg. And I don't know, is that a message? I know for us, instantly, we even said it together. We looked at each other and said, we gotta help. We flipped around, Heidi went to one side of the chair, I went to the other, and we got her across the street, out of traffic. There were literally 200 or 300 other people crossing the street at the same time. How did they miss that? Really? I don't know. But what I'd like to close with today, if you'll allow me to share, is a tap on the shoulder that I got some 27 years ago that completely changed my life. 100%. So I had the absolute honor and privilege of being on a pretty small team, about 80 members. And at the time, this 80-member team was representing about 950,000 Guard, Reserve, and active duty Air Force airmen. And as what we would usually do, we would leave Nellis, our home base, on a Thursday, and we'd take off as a team, and we'd hit a tanker, and we'd go to whatever show site we were doing that weekend. And on this particular trip, I happened to be in the family model. So I had our flight surgeon, Thunderbird 9, Doogie Adams, in my trunk. And since I was in a D model, I had a centerline tank, so I had a ton of gas. And on this particular weekend, we were flying the show at Providence, Rhode Island. So we come off the tanker, and we usually show, and we roar around town for a little while. We do a little arrival show with the smoke on, making a bunch of noise to let everybody know there's a show in town. And beautiful, stunning day in that whole harbor area, the whole Providence, Newport area. Who's been there? Oh, stunning, just beautiful day. And since I had a lot of extra gas, I asked the boss, hey, do you mind if I clear off and show Doogie around the bay? And the boss said, sure, Skip, go ahead. So Doogie and I rode around for a while, and then on the other side of the bay from Providence in Newport is a university. Stunning, beautiful campus, owned by the United States Navy. It's their senior leadership school. And as it happened to be, I had two friends there on exchanges, one going through Air War College, one through Command and Staff. And I just happened to mention that you might want to eat lunch on the terrazzo that day. And so, first pass down the flagpole, there were quite a few people out. Second pass, more people. Third pass, the place was pretty packed. And so I had asked for an unrestricted climb to 10,000 feet. So on the fourth pass was 400 knots smoke on. At the end of the flags, 8G pull, full grunt up the wood. Go Air Force, beat Navy. So we go back, pitch out, land, and when I get out of the jet, my crew chiefs are high-fiving me. That was awesome, boss. We could see it from here, and I was feeling pretty proud of myself, as you can imagine. So what we also do on that Thursday is we hit the ground running. As soon as we park the jets, we grab our crew chiefs and we hit the town with what we call PRs, or public relation events, where we go to schools, civic organizations, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, any place that wanted to see a Thunderbird, we would love to go, and we would just spread out and conquer. Well, on this particular trip, I didn't have a PR on Thursday afternoon, so we get out of the jet and Doogie goes, hey Skip, I'm going to a hospital today, you want to go with me? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. I had never gone to a hospital before. That would be awesome. So I grab my crew chiefs, we hop in the rental, and off we go. Well, he did not tell me what hospital we were going to. There's a toy company headquartered in Providence. Anybody know what that is? Hasbro. Hasbro's headquartered in Providence, and they had partnered with the state and the city, and they had built 3 city blocks and 7 stories of the most amazing children's hospital you've ever seen. It was stunning. You pulled into the parking lot, there were murals of animals on the walls. We went inside, there were clowns everywhere. There were mimes doing the little balloon animal things. There were radio-controlled cars and trucks just zipping by everywhere because Hasbro had taken all their new toys and they'd set up little play areas, man. It was awesome. There were smiles. If you had a sick child, it is where you'd want to take them. So we met the staff, our escorts, 2 nurses, and we decided to split and conquer. So I sent Doogie off with one of my crew chiefs. I grabbed Boo Boo and off we went. We toured that hospital, we went everywhere. We met the staff, we met the kids, the doctors, the physicians. Everyone there just built you up. You felt like you were somewhere where everyone was using their gift. Just the look on their face, they were joyous to be there. It was so fun. Well, great afternoon, and towards the end, we found ourselves on the 7th floor, the top floor, and it was the oncology ward. And needless to say, we didn't go into many rooms. But we got down towards the end of the hall, towards the end of the 7th floor, and our nurse comes out of a double-wide door and gives us one of these. Well, Boo Boo and I went down there, and to kind of set the scene, the door opens, and there's a young boy in the bed, propped up about 45 degrees, really thin, about as white as the sheets and the gown that he was in, no hair, a lot of tubes, and I remember 2 adults sitting on the other side of the bed, easily discernible as his parents, with concerned looks on their faces. But Boo Boo and I went into attack mode. He went to one side of the bed, I went to the other side of the bed, and we just had the best, most awesome 15 minutes with that kid. We were picking on each other, we were having fun with him. We got him to laugh and giggle and smile, and he wanted me to sign his gown, so I took my Sharpie and signed his gown, and we signed some autographs for his parents. We pinned them all, gave them all Thunderbird pins. His name was Andy. He was 13. And he wanted to be a teacher. And so I could tell he was getting pretty tired and pretty well out of gas. And so we said our goodbyes to the family and went out the door. And we were standing in the hall with our escort, trying to figure out how to get out of the hospital, and I got a tap on the shoulder. It was his parents. They had followed us out. His mother was in tears, but his father was able to tell me that his son had come out of remission from leukemia and was not expected to live very long, and that he hadn't smiled for quite some time, and they were grateful. And we're just so very, very grateful. I don't remember leaving the hospital. I don't remember the ride back to the hotel. But I do vividly remember that the person that got out of that car was not the same person that got out of that jet just a couple hours before. It changed my life. I've never gone backwards. And so I'll ask you, who is the hero of that story? It was Andy. A 13-year-old dying child was already a teacher. He taught me the most important lesson I think I've learned in my entire life. And that's that something simple that you do that may seem mundane, something you don't even think twice about, can so affect and so change a life that never, ever take it for granted. And that's why I do this. When I get home at night sometimes after a 14, 15-hour day doing IE NDOC, and I'm tired. I mean, every one of us that I work together with in this room, I love you like family because we just leave it on the court every day, but I feel so good knowing that Andy taught me that I had a chance to make an impact. So you didn't get a chance to meet him, but I will tell you now, he would love you just like he loved us for that 15 minutes that we had a chance to get to know him, and he really changed my life. Just like you're changing everybody else's life. So when you're shot, when you're tired, you've had it, you don't think you got HFPD left in you anymore, understand what this group does and the effect it will have on the future of United Airlines going forward. Rob, thank you so much. for the opportunity. God bless you all. Thank you.